So one thing that's mentioned quite a lot in relation to the simulation theory and proof, or something seen as proof that we are living in a simulation, is experiencing déjà vu. So this was originally something that was put forward by the science fiction author Philip K. Dick, which is always difficult to say without a bit of a smirk. Sorry, it's my adolescence humour. But there's a very famous conference that he spoke at in, I think it's 1977, and he was basically lifting the lid, if you like, on this whole concept that we're living in a simulation. And actually, just before the talk itself, he was, I think, forced or asked, in quotes, to cut his talk down by something like 2/3. So what he ended up giving was quite a condensed version of what he wanted to speak about. But he was talking about this whole notion that there's this kind of external source from us that is running this simulation in which we effectively live. And he said that when we experience déjà vu, what effectively is happening is it's like parts of the simulation or the simulated world is being rewritten, is being adjusted, if you like. And the way he explained it was if you had a painting, a famous painting, and there was a character, let's say, on the left, and then you kind of brushed them out and then moved them to somewhere else. You repainted them somewhere else on the canvas. Well, it's still the same canvas, but things have moved around. So this is another explanation why, you might be looking for something and no one else has moved it, and everyone else in your house claims they haven't moved it. And then you finally find it in a different location, and then you start thinking, well, maybe I just moved it, but I didn't realize. Or you go back, and this happened to one of you commented on one of my videos and said that they were looking for an ID card. And then he finally went back to where he'd already looked, and then it was there, and it was like, well, why was it not there in the first place? And of course, people, if you tell people this story, they'll say, oh, well, maybe you just didn't look properly. Or, if you ever experienced trying to find something when you're a kid, I don't know, something in your wardrobe or your clothes, and then you say to your mum, they go up and look and they open the wardrobe and they find it straight away. Or there's something that you were looking for in the fridge and it just miraculously appears. So, because it was still the same canvas, but it's just been altered, that's his explanation for why things can get altered. And the reason why you get déjà vu is because you've actually experienced something like 95% of it before, but something has changed. So it feels familiar, but there's just been an adjustment. And of course, there's so many different pieces of evidence that we're living in a simulation. You're having a conversation and you feel like you've had the conversation before, or you know what they're going to say next, or you're listening to the radio and you think of a song and then it comes on the next song and you're like, what the hell? There's so many different things that if you keep your eyes open, there are these little clues that we're living in a simulation. And of course, whenever you tell somebody about that, they just say, oh, it's just a coincidence. And I was exactly the same when I was younger. And these crazy coincidences would happen. I've told a story before about a friend of mine that I used to go to college with, and I hadn't seen him for 2 or 3 years. And then when I went to call him on the phone was engaged, and it was because we were trying to call each other at exactly the same time about 2 completely different things. If you try and work out the odds of that, because if I called a millisecond before, his phone would have rung, or vice versa, my phone would have rung, but we picked up the phones at the same time trying to call each other. So, the odds of that is just insane. So would love to hear your thoughts about déjà vu, whether you've had experiences of things of that nature. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the like button if you enjoyed this video or got anything out of it, and I'll speak to you guys soon. Take care.